All right, today we're going to tackle one of the most important, but maybe a little misunderstood tools in investing: CAGR. I know, another finance acronym, right? But trust me, by the end of this, it's going to feel super simple. In fact, we're going to explain the whole thing with a story about a mango tree. You know that feeling, right? You open up your investment statement, you see all these numbers, and it can feel a little overwhelming. You're just trying to answer one basic question. Hey, is my money actually growing? But the numbers don't always make that easy to see. You see these numbers just jumping all over the place. One year you're up 14%, awesome. The next you're down 8, ouch. Then you shoot up 22%, only to dip again. It's a total roller coaster, and a string of numbers like this just leaves you wondering. With all that whiplash, how do you figure out how fast your investment actually grew over the long haul? And here's the thing. You can't just add those percentages up and divide. Nope, that'll give you the wrong answer. To find the real growth, you need a much better tool. Think about it like this. Relying on just 1 year's return is kind of like checking today's weather and trying to describe the entire climate of a region. It's just a snapshot, right? It doesn't tell you the whole story. We need a way to see the long-term trend, not just today's forecast. Okay, so to really get this, we're going to leave the spreadsheets and the stock charts behind for a minute. Let's head out into the garden. We're going to use a simple story to make this whole idea click. Okay, so imagine this. You go out and plant a tiny little mango sapling in your yard. You're dreaming of all the delicious mangoes you're going to get. But nature, just like the market, it's a bit unpredictable. So let's see how it does. Year 1, you get 10 mangoes. Not bad for a start. The next year is amazing, 25 mangoes. You're thinking, I'm a mango growing genius. But then, a rough season. You only get 15. And then, year 4, boom, a huge harvest of 40 mangoes. See? The growth is all over the map. And that right there, that's the whole point. This bumpy, unpredictable harvest with its good years and its not so good years, it's the perfect stand-in for the volatility of the stock market. So, what are we supposed to do with this? How do we find one single number that tells us how the tree is really growing over time? Well, what we need to find is its smooth growth rate. And that, my friends, is exactly what CAGR does. CAGR stands for Compound Annual Growth Rate. It basically ignores all those jagged ups and downs and instead calculates the one single smooth growth rate that would have gotten you from your starting point to your end point. Let me put it another way. The big question CAGR answers is this. If our tree had grown at the exact same percentage every single year, what would that percentage need to be for us to start with 10 mangoes and end up with 40 mangoes after 4 years? All right, let's figure out what that rate is. And don't panic. Yes, there's a formula, but it's way easier than it looks, especially when we use our mango numbers. We only need 3 things. That's it. First, where did we start? Our initial value was 10 mangoes. Second, where did we end up? The final value was 40 mangoes. And third, how long did it take? The number of years, which we call n, was 4. Simple, right? Okay, here it is, the formula. It might look a little intimidating, but all it's saying is this. Take your final number, divide it by your starting number, then you do a little math with the number of years, and at the very end, you just subtract 1. So let's just pop our mango numbers right in there. Final is 40, initial is 10, and n is 4. See, we're just swapping out the words for the numbers from our story. And when you run that through a calculator, drum roll please, you get 41%. That is our CAGR. So through all those good and bad seasons, it's as if our tree was steadily growing at 41% every single year. All right, mangoes are delicious, but what does this have to do with your money? Let's bring this idea back from the garden and into your investment portfolio. Because here's the thing, your mutual funds, your retirement accounts, all of it, it grows exactly like that mango tree. Some years are great, returns are high, other years, not so much. The one thing you can count on is that it's never, ever a perfectly straight line. And that's precisely why CAGR is your best friend here. A 1-year return, that's totally misleading. That's like judging our awesome mango tree based on that one crummy season where it only gave us 15 mangoes. But CAGR, It's reliable. It gives you the big picture, the true long-term growth story over all the seasons. So let's boil it down. What does CAGR help you understand? It shows you the real long-term return, cutting through all the yearly noise. It gives you a much more realistic picture of how your wealth is actually growing. And maybe most importantly, it lets you compare different funds fairly on a true apples-to-apples basis. Okay, if you remember just one thing from all of this, make it this. When you're looking at a fund to invest in, don't get distracted by that flashy one-year return they might be advertising. Always look for the 5-year or, even better, the 10-year CAGR. That's the number that tells you what's really going on. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you look at your own investments, are you getting caught up in the drama of a single season, or are you using the right tools to see the true story of their growth?